All right, so we are going to continue what we, oh, no homework, continue what we did last time, started last time, which is the skull, the floating skull, right?
Oh.
Yeah, so we had.
You know, I actually came up.
Oh, yeah?
I was reading a.
Not that you saw a skull.
No, I was reading a book about like Hillel, like all the things about him.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
it was
interesting. Okay. Yeah. All right, so Hillel. Google Achas, he saw a skull Shesaf al Panei Mayim floating on the water. Amar la, he said to it, Al da'at, oh, I gave you handouts with this, right? Yeah. Al da'ateft atfuch v'sof metifayach yitufun. Because you drown others, you were drowned, and ultimately those who drown you will themselves be drowned. Yeah, I'll wait till you get the handouts out. We're actually gonna do something out of order and what? Do you not have it?
I forgot my folder and I think
All right, that happens. I've done that. Yeah. Okay, so we had a bunch of questions, which were, why is he talking to a skull? Did this actually happen? Is this literal? Does this imply that anyone who kills someone in a specific way will meet with the same fate? That doesn't seem true. How does this work? Is this in line with free will? Is it natural or hashgachic? What did and didn't Hillel know about the skull? What is this doing in Pirkei Avos? What does this teach about Hasidus? The audience of Avos isn't contemplating murder. Yeah, so we did the Rambam last time and started to theorize on what he held. It was kind of actually, no, we started the other way. I think Elisheva had an idea, and then I said that that seems to be in line with the general direction the Rambam was taking, and then we kind of like merged both of them. Does anyone remember what we said last time?
Oh, the thing about punishment. No, not punishment. No, society.
Society, yes.
Yeah, no, y'all.
I said, and you said a little different.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You had the subtly different. Okay, yeah. So whatever. What do you remember? And we'll put it together again.
That a person, that an individual has an effect on the way sin occurs like, around them because they promote certain actions and that allows others to like follow. Okay, good. So you basically, when you do certain actions that promote certain values or practices, that has like a ripple effect in society and affects the people around you, and then how does that, and then that'll come back to you, right? That'll, because you're in the same society, it'll ultimately come back to you. Yeah.
I think we said, like I was saying, like it affects society, it just comes back to you like in a mishnah way, but I think like they were maybe saying more in a direct way, like what you do to like your friend will, like they'll see that you're doing it and that it's okay and it'll come back to you, not just like on a societal level, but on an individual level.
Yeah. Yeah, that was the disagreement. And I think I like the societal one better only because when Hillel says this, he's saying it like a general principle. And I feel like it's going to be truer as a general principle than in a particular individual to individual way, you know?
It's easier to resolve the argument.
Oh, I was wondering if someone was going to say that. Yeah. So yeah, that's that. Okay, so and then also this is not just for the bad, but this is also for the good, right? That if you promote good activities or behavior in society, that's going to shape the society in a positive way, and then it'll come back. Okay, so can we give like examples of this that are more real world examples for us than seeing a decapitated head in a water? Because I feel like that's a little extreme.
That's very personal.
Like let's say on like online, if you hear from your friend like, oh yeah, I just had a quiz, like you totally cheated on, like it becomes like a.
Yeah. Okay. So I think that's a good example. Is that if there are restrictions or standards in a certain institution, and like people start like it starts to become acceptable to violate those things, then the whole thing just falls apart. I mean, this is true. Any rule that is not enforced, then this happens too. You know.
Yeah,
Being on time to class. Like teachers, they're never on time. So you
exactly. Right. Exactly. Yeah.
I'm also in certain schools where the dress code isn't as enforced, like no one actually gets started.
Right. Actually, the example, I was actually going to give an example with the teachers on time thing is that I think I've used this example in Mishlei before, but like if a teacher dismisses the students early, then what that does in a school, especially a small school like she'll have it, right? Yeah, is it that so then other teachers will see, oh, there are kids in the hall and it's out early, so then I guess I can do it. And then that ends up leading to this thing where everyone is being lax with the dismissal time, which causes a greater net disruption, you know? Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so that's a good example for that. And then let's do an example for good A good behavior? I mean, this is just, common, but like, what would be an example of a good behavior?
If there's someone on the street, there's like someone on the street like asking for money, and you see a few people giving them money, then people just keep lining up giving them money.
Oh, okay, that's good. So that actually fits in very well with the particular individual thing of people like seeing your exact behavior and then emulating it, Yeah. Yeah, I was thinking, I mean, that's definitely a true example. Can we think of one that's more for like how it changes the entire society?
Maybe also be more personal. I was thinking like if you like don't speak badly about other people and like you just don't like, I guess, talk about other people, people won't really talk about you because it's just like.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. So
That'd be more
No, I
personal.
think people will talk about you. I just think no one will talk to you
About what people
Well,
say.
okay, how about this?
About other people. Like they'll know they shouldn't say that stuff. I don't know if they'll implement it with other people.
Meaning if the norm in that society that you're in, when I say society, I mean like it could be a school, it could be a class, it could be a peer group or whatever, is to not speak badly about people. If that's the norm, and let's say the norm is also to like, let's say like to be encouraging to each other about things, like a supportive environment, that will actually like lead to more of that quality in that society, is that the more supportive you are of your friends, then the more they'll be supportive of you, and then the more you'll be supportive of them, and then it has like this rippling effect in a good way. Yeah. Okay.
It's hard to say that one individual can make that big of a difference in even like a small environment.
Okay, good. So this might, I mean, I forgot if we talked about this.
That's what you would have said, and that's why this puzzle is showing you no, you can't.
I think you're both right. Okay, meaning that on the one hand, I think it is just a havamina, and it's easy for a person to say, well, what is my action going to do to actually matter? But an individual can shape their society. Like let's say, for example, I mean, this is a bad example, right? Let's say throwing stuff in the garbage and it's overflowing, right? Like that potentially. I mean, that's something that you all, I assume, somewhat equally contribute to the garbage, right? Contribute to, right? Okay. Yeah. So like if it's easy to say, well, like, what does my one piece of garbage, matter? But like, that is what everyone is saying. And then that's what causes the problem in the first
Oh, that's
place.
like the bystander effect. Like,
Yeah.
if someone got hurt, then everyone keeps saying like, oh, it's fine, someone else is gonna do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, the wine story.
The wine story?
The wine-
Oh,
Like a barrel full of wine, a barrel,
yeah.
and then everyone in the village is asked to bring wine, and everyone
Yeah.
was like, oh, let's bring my water.
Yeah.
Notice, and everyone brings water, and
Is that a Sodom story?
I don't know. I read it I have like this storybook of
Yeah.
with a bunch of stories.
Because that when you said, as soon as you started saying that, I think this is a Sodom story about how like each person would take like one grape
Yeah.
from the like cart or whatever.
It was Dormammu.
Dormammu? Oh, okay.
Yeah, we were just talking about
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Say that
Right. So
was, whatever it's
that's a
called.
good example, is like I saw a quote, I don't think this was on the wall in room 5, that no snowflake thinks that I'm not using snowflake in a political way. No snowflake thinks it's responsible for the avalanche. But like an avalanche really is just a certain accumulation of lots and lots of individual snowflakes, and like that's what leads to the avalanche. And so when a bunch of people, like the values in a society are influenced by the actions of each and every person. Now that doesn't mean that your one action is going to like create the whole wave, but I think the havamina is it's okay for me to do it because I'm only one individual. But then on a societal level, that's really bad if everyone's thinking about that, and that could lead to like bad stuff. And conversely, for good stuff also, that like, oh, what is this one thing going to matter? Like if I just like do this nice act or whatever, but if that is how good trends start. Like, do you see that news story about I mean, this is kind of a particular example, the news story about the paying it forward
No.
with the paying for the meal behind them.
Oh. Yeah.
I forgot what restaurant it was, but like this car decided to like pay for the person's meal behind them.
Yeah.
And like it was like a
my dad
900
says, like,
yeah.
if you want to get into a lane, go to the guy who's let in by someone else, and they'll let you in.
Oh yeah, that's good. Yeah. Yeah. So on the one hand, I think it is just the havamina, okay. But I think this also Leia's point about how like one individual is not going to affect everyone. I think that might be what it's doing in Pirkei Avos, which is that the people who are in positions where they can really influence people, like the judges and the leaders of the community, for them, this is really true. Like if you see the leaders doing something sketchy or like something really good, that can have a much wider ripple effect to change the whole society.
Like if you're in a position to make a difference and you you don't,
Yeah.
then that's kind of just as bad as making a bad example.
Yes. Yeah. Right.
With the murder, like I'm sure that guy, like you could say by not making it like known that murder is a bad thing, that's why he got murdered.
Yeah. Well, there's actually with the specific example of murder. There is an example. There's a mitzvah in the Torah that is very tied to that.
Like when that person's murdered and you don't know who it is.
Yeah.
Then you break that thing's neck.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. Right, it's an egla rufa, right? Is that if they find a dead body outside of the city, then they measure like which city's closest, and then leaders take responsibility, and they break the cow's neck or whatever to get kapara. But like the whole idea there also is like if we had been more welcoming or had hachnasas orchim as a value in the society, then things like this wouldn't happen because there would be no traveler who would have to be like walking out there alone, in a society like that. Yeah.
Also, I think that even if a person who's in that position of leadership doesn't have that great of an effect,
Yeah.
just having the mindset of like I'm doing this because it affects other people is a good mindset to have. As a
Yes, I think so also, right? I mean, yeah, just the awareness of the people outside of your own bubble that you can affect one way or another, like, instead it breaks you out of that egotistical thing of I'm just thinking about my own the influence on me, it's healthy. Okay, so this next source I did not we'll go through the Rambam. This next source I did not have on your source sheets because I just found it this morning. Okay, first of all, we got to do the next mishnah. Okay, we're not moving on yet, but the next mishnah says, I don't know if you've heard this one. You can tell it's a fun structural one. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. So you've read the mishnahs. Yeah. Marbe basar. One who has a lot of not meat here, flesh, right? Marbe rima.
What's news? What is that?
News.
Oh, Bisurot Tova.
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah. I wonder if there's a relation.
Is this something like
Yeah, Basura Tovot. Yeah.
I
Is
say like the newspaper?
For the show.
yeah. That's modern
Or like
Hebrew.
the news.
Yeah, that's modern.
Whatever.
Anyway,
Oh, yeah.
Marbe basar, marbe rima. You know what rima is? I wonder if it's related to that. It's Ramai is and Laram Mirma is deceitful. So it's worms. Okay, one who increases flesh increases worms. Not sure what that means exactly. I mean, obviously, if you have more flesh, then when you die, then you're going to have more worms eating.
God, where did I
It's
get
like
that from?
wrong scientific. I feel like it's just that. I mean, it's just like they had an idea that like you had like bacteria.
Yeah, I honestly not even sure which worms they're referring to here. I don't know if it means like during life or after death. Okay, Marbin Nechasim. You know what Nechasim are? Possessions. Yeah, Marbe daga. More worry. Okay, this one's definitely true, right? Okay, I mean, obviously we have to analyze each one of these, but just on a certain sense here. Marbe nashim. This is a funny one. More women.
More magic. 'Cause they're witches.
Yeah, more witchcraft, and I think it's not women. I think it's wives. Okay, because I think it was a common thing. No, we're not gonna go. No, you'll see why I'm bringing this up. Okay,
Oh.
what was that?
Tiflos life.
Yeah.
Make sure
Tiflos gang.
life is a lie.
Marvin, that's your Marvin to
Marbe shvachos, marbe zima.
A lot of maid servants, a lot of
Promiscuity.
Promiscuity, yeah. And this we see most recently in like America in the like slave owners realm, like when they had a lot of like female maidservants, then there'd be a lot of
Jefferson. Oh.
not Thomas
Oh,
Jefferson.
James Madison. Remember?
Did he also have this issue?
Jefferson had like.
Jefferson did.
All
Didn't
did.
that too?
Washington.
Didn't-
Not all.
Am I
Adams
saying something
didn't.
about, like, that was people
Adams was
buying
not.
$1 bill, or was that something else?
Well, they were. I mean,
No,
we don't just
Adams-
classify good and bad guys.
Yeah, it's all right.
Adams was anti-slavery and didn't have slaves.
Jefferson
No,
was
Adams
anti-slavery,
was
but he had-
Yeah. Yeah, very much so. That was one of the things that was a fracture in their friendship. That he was.
Yeah, remember the movie Mr. Macklin showed us? They were like fighting.
Yeah, John Adams is like one of the few founding fathers who was like very anti-slavery. Benjamin Franklin also, but okay. Anyway, Marbe Avadim, Marbe Gazel.
A lot of servants, a lot of
Yeah, right. And that's probably also true if you're a household that has tons and tons of servants. Probably means you're very rich. Probably means that they're going to take advantage of that or whatever, or just more people to keep track of. If you have like one butler, so then that's like easy to get to know them. Whatever. Marbe Torah, Marbe Chaim. More Torah, more life. Yeah, it did. Marbe Yeshiva, Marbe Chachma.
a lot of
Yeah, sitting here. I think it's I think yeshiva here. I copied this from the Chabad.org. Increases study. I think it means like sitting in yeshiva, not like just sitting on a chair. Where's the Marbe Eitza, Marbe Tvuna. This is an interesting one. The more advice, the more tivuna. Insight, yeah, understanding. Marvet tzedakah, marvet shalom.
More righteousness.
Yeah.
More peace.
Okay, good. Or yeah, righteousness or charity. I'm sure there's disagreement here. And then it changes the format here. Kana shem tov. Someone requires a good name. Kana la'atzmo. He got it for himself. Okay. Kana lo divrei Torah. Someone requires divrei Torah. Kana lo chayil holam haba. He got it for himself, life in the world to come. Yeah, okay, fine. So what does this have to do with anything? Okay, so this is the next Mishnah, all right? So this is, in my opinion, an ingenious interpretation of our Mishnah, okay? Tosafos Yom Tov, and this is, again, I didn't have handouts because I just found this morning here. Okay, so he says, so he's talking about our Mishnah about the skull, okay? Lo amaru b'derech chiyuv muchlat. Hillel didn't say this in an absolute manner, okay? Shekein hu v'shekein yiheh, that this is what is and this is what will be. Meaning, he's not saying that anytime you see a skull, it's because, you know, that person killed some other people and or that person killed someone else and other people. Wait, doesn't mean that he was killed by murderers and that those murderers will get killed. Okay. It's possible that this drowned person didn't drown others. Right? Sometimes people just drown, right? Because they don't know how to swim, right? Same thing with the drowner. It's possible he's not going to be drowned. So this is like what we said, like, this is hard to disagree with this, right? Like, it's not true that every single person who died in a certain way was like, you know, a victim of the same thing. Ella b'derech hanacha haya omer beino levein atzmo shekenhu kfi haseichel. Rather, he said this as a general supposition privately to himself that this is according to rationality. Okay, meaning that this general principle is true. Okay, however, and here's the clever part, because the known facts contradict this, okay, meaning that like you're going to find many exceptions to the rule. He accustomed himself to proclaim to the masses, the more flesh, the more worms, the more maidservants, the more promiscuity, the more servants, the more theft. Lomar, to say, to say that this is true for all the midos in the world, and that the measure that a person uses, he'll be measured by. Okay, stop for 1 second. Anyone catch what he's doing here?
He's saying like the next things like that they say, I say. He's saying like if you may think it's not true, well, the more midah, the more that.
Yeah. Okay, that's part of it. But there's also something here about who he's saying this to. The masses as opposed to, nope, well, maybe, but as opposed to, who do you say the skull thing to? Himself. Okay, so what the Tosafos Yom Tov is saying, he's saying there's two versions of the same idea. There's the version that Hillel said to himself, and then the version he said to the masses. The version he said to himself was the skull thing. Okay, but because he said that it makes sense. Okay, it's according to rationality. But he knew that if he started saying this to the masses, what problem are they going to have? This doesn't actually happen. So he translated it into examples that they could understand, which is the more possessions you have, the more worry you're going to have. The more, this, the more that. Okay. And one more step, and then we'll explain just one more small part here. Umin ha-gluyos, and from that which is evident, meaning that which is like obvious, ata dan lenistaros. You can infer to that which is hidden, shegam hema biyosher v'tzedek, that they too are with uprightness and righteousness. Ela she'in banu koch lahaskilam v'lamad al tuchunasim, but we lack the capacity to comprehend them and understand their workings.
Can you transition to the idea that we just learned about religion and truth?
Before we do that, let's just get the main idea first. Okay, so what he's saying is like this. Okay, he's saying that we know that if you indulge in bad midos, then you're going to get corresponding results. And if you promote good midos, then there's going to be good benefits. Okay, and he says we see a lot of clear examples of that in this other Mishnah of here. These are all clear examples of where one midah leads to another bad midah, or one good midah leads to another good midah. Okay, so he's saying it is also true in a much, much more particular level. But if you told the masses that in a particular way, then like they're not going to accept it. So in other words, when Hillel himself sees a murderer, he sees a guy who's decapitated, he says, "Oh, you must have killed other people." and that's why you got killed, and the people who killed you are going to get killed, because he can understand that like this is the way the world works. But if you said this to the average person, they're going to find many examples that contradict it, and they're not going to accept it. So he has to like water it down.
That's also assuming bad then. Because they always assume the good people, but that's kind of assuming that this person is down others.
That's interesting. You're asking about the Don Lachowskis thing? Yeah. Hold off on that for 1 second. Okay. I think I have an answer to that, but I just want to make sure we get the main idea first. So he watered down this idea and said it to them in this way where they can all agree with this in general. But he's saying that the masses are not ready for like this level of particularity because it takes a lot more abstract thought to think about. You know, and that's also why I think so. This is called the Iker Tosafos Yom Tov. He was a commentary on the Mishnah, and Iker means that this is just the main points, but he has a full version of it. And the full version, he says, that's why the Hillel statement is in Aramaic, because Hillel was in Bavel, and so this is like the statement he was saying to himself. But for the Mishnah, which is like for all of Am Yisrael, then they wrote it in Hebrew. You know,
I don't like that he doesn't the idea behind it. Like, he just kind of says what it functions as, but not what it.
Well, what he is saying, he's saying it's in line with rationality, which
Really, sorry.
You think something like
I think he's talking about the Mishlaic rationality that we've been talking about, which is that if you are the type of person who's going around, again, if you see a decapitated head in the river, right? So then he definitely got murdered, right? Now, it's true that sometimes you get a freak incident where someone who's totally innocent, you know, just gets murdered in the wrong place in the wrong time. But back then, or even now, like who are the people who are most likely to get murdered? The people who are running around in circles where they're murdering people and stuff like that, you know, like gangs and stuff like that, you know? So he can see like, yeah, this guy's death was as a result of his lifestyle, his bad lifestyle. But if you say that to the average person, then they're going to you need to learn a certain amount of Mishlei in order to be able to get that, like to see the truth of that point.
Yeah, but I was just saying that I feel like you're very much reading in your own interpretation already that you already had with his rationality thing. I don't think he really explained what
He does. You want me to show it to you?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is in the I mentioned this is the abridged version. That's the Iker Tosafos Yom Tov. So let's read the. You see why I didn't want to show you the real one because it's long. I'll just see if I can find the part though that's relevant. Yeah, that's what I mean. The Iker Tosafos Yom Tov is the abridged version. Let me show you. Let's see if we can find it and see if he says it clear. 2:6. So
From the Gemara.
it's Mishnah. Yeah, it's a Mishnah. So there's no Gemara on it. I'm not sure why there was no Gemara on it. Okay, so this is the Iker Tosafos Yom Tov, but there should be a regular Tosafos Yom Tov. Iker Tosafos Yom Tov, Tosafos Yom Tov. Okay, so let's see. All right, so let me see if I can find it because it starts off. But I don't know his wording though. That's the thing. So it starts off here, and so here's the full version of the commentary. But let's see if we can find it. It's not super long. Okay, we can divide between where he says the question. Okay, and the answer. קושקין שבלשון ארמי, וכן מדיר אשר היה לנוכח עצם גולגולס המס, ולמה זה לא יישא פניו לאמור על ירשומים, אחי הבלי למאמר על דעתי עטפי, oh, here we go. Here's what he says this explanation. L'kach nearly, therefore it seems to me. So this is after he gave all the questions and then like refuted other people's answers. L'kach nearly lomar, it seems to me to say, de hachik amar, this is what he meant to say, de kamosh amar ein bur v'chule, okay. He's referring to the previous Mishnah now. Okay, the previous Mishnah said someone who's like a boor. You know what the English word boor means? It's boar, but I'm saying the English word boor.
Oh, boar, like the animal?
No, B-O-O-R.
Oh, boar, to give birth to.
No. Boor is like an imbecile or like a simpleton, you know. So there's the Mishnah in Avos before said, "Ein boor yirei chet," someone who's a boor cannot fear sin. So let's see what he says. The point of that mishnah was to negate bad qualities, meaning to say that you can't. I'm sure you've heard parts of this mishnah. It says, "Ein bor yirei chet," someone who's a boor cannot be sin-fearing. "Ein am haaretz chasid," someone who's in ignorance can't be pious. "Ein habaishan lomed," right? Someone who's embarrassed can't learn it. "Ein hakaptan malamed," you're "Ein hakaptan malamed," kaptan. An impatient person cannot teach. So the point of that mishnah was to talk about bad qualities that you should avoid. Okay, so that's what he's saying so far. Cain afhu ra'av gule. So too, he saw a skull. V'amrle al da'atef gule, and he said, because you drown others, etc. V'nimshach lo demisham ulahalan hu haya omer marbe basar marbe rima. And based on that, he said, one who increases flesh increases worms. Okay, in other words, he's learning all three mishnahs together. That here are bad qualities you should avoid. That's the previous mishnah. Then here's the skull mishnah, and then you increase this, you increase that mishnah. Okay, so let's see what he says now. In order to I don't know what he means by to necessitate the bad qualities and the good qualities. When he saw the skull, Amarle, he said to it, Al da'atef v'chule, because you drowned others, etc. Klomar, mistama hadas nosein. In general, we can assume and rationality dictates that because you drown others, you were drowned. And in the end, those who drown you will be drowned. Because with the same measure that a person measures, he'll be measured. That is the midah, and that's what the intellect necessitates. But nevertheless, the facts contradict it, right? Meaning we don't see the cases where, meaning just because this guy was drowned doesn't mean that he drowned others. Many people are killed but did not kill. And many people kill and are not killed. In order to make it so that reality doesn't contradict that which rationality dictates, which is that everything is in line with truth, with the standard of truth, and everything is judged righteously. Therefore, he would say, and it would be something he would say a lot, from now on, marbe basar marbe rima, that the more flesh, then the more worms, etc. Lahargil b'fia brios, in order to accustom in the mouths of people, ki mischayev hakol b'chiyuv amiti uv'midas yosher, that everything is in accordance with truth and with uprightness. Shahari atamote marbe basar marbe rima, because you find that the more flesh, the more worms. Leinin hapachisuyos, regarding bad qualities, marbe Torah, marbe chaim, and the more you Torah, then the more life, linyan hamalos, with regards to good qualities. Hare ki midos hanahugos ba'olam yesharos utmimosem. The midos that are practiced in the world are upright and in line with and whole. Umin hagluyos, and from the things that are obvious, ata dan linistaros. You can apply it to the things that are not obvious. Let Hashem Elokeinu. Shagam Hema B'Tzedek V'Yosher Nimshachim, that they also follow after righteousness and uprightness. Elash Ein Banu Koch Lahaskilam, but we don't have the ability to understand them. V'Lamot Al Tichunasam, and to arrive at their correct understanding. Inyan Shenemar, as it says, Ki lo machshavosai machshavosechem v'lo derachaychem derachai. Hashem says, your ways are not my ways, and your thoughts are not my thoughts. V'Nimtza Im Kain. Consequently, Shazam Mamar, this statement, al da'atef, the one about the skull, lo amru b'der chiyuv, he didn't say it in an absolute manner, l'chayev shekachu v'shekain haya, to say that it has to be this way, ela b'der chanacha, but just as like a supposition. Haya omer, shekach hi ha'anacha k'fi ha'seichel. This is a rational thing to assume. Mivnei sham b'fursa machachisho k'dei shelo yavo ha'adam chas v'shalom lomer d'les din v'les dayan, and so that people won't come to say, when they see that the facts contradict it, they won't say, oh, there's no such thing as a divine judge and there's no justice. Therefore, he would say, that's why he would say the second mishnah, that the more flesh, the more worms. Marbe Torah, Lomar, Shalamari inenu nishpot betov tam vadas, that according to what we can see, it's all judged in line with real justice. And you'll know that just like these things follow an order, bein l'ra, bein l'tov, whether for bad or for good, so too all the midos in the world follow an order, meaning not just the ones in that mishnah, but also if you are a killer, you will be killed. And if you are a tzedakah giver, then you'll be like recipient of tzedakah, you know?
That mishnah though doesn't necessarily, maybe just because we're not learning it, so I don't see how.
Yeah.
But it's not like one midah leads to another. It's more like one midah leads to a negative consequence. Not like a bad
Right. And
midah.
it's not even a corresponding midah, right? Like the
Right.
having lots of slaves would come from one quality, but being stolen from is a completely different midah.
Right. It's just negative consequences.
Just negative consequences. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So he seems to be broadening it to the point where he's saying that like good actions have good consequences in the world and bad actions have bad consequences. Not even like a midah keneged midah thing. Just like built into the world, then there are these consequences to your good actions and consequences to your bad actions. So it's much more broad than what we were assuming.
And he's saying the same like that. Just like too many slaves leads to a lot of stealing. So too, if you kill someone, they'll kill you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just negative consequences.
Just negative consequences, and not even.
The skull example, he thought that people were
In other words, yeah, because in other words, when he's coining the statement, see, here's what would happen, okay? If he said it publicly, the skull thing, I think people would walk away with a very almost like mystical idea of karma, the way that people do nowadays, of like, you get exactly like what you did, you know, in that same dosage. And like, it's only true in the general sense. And sometimes it works out exactly, but like, you know, the real way it works out is just through natural consequences, like in Mishlei, you know?
I think he chose examples for them that were more understandable and more
Yeah.
less extreme.
Yeah, understandable, and that you can. It was less extreme, but I think the main thing is that it's observable. Yeah, as you can see from people that if they have a lot of possessions, then they have a lot of anxiety and worry and stuff like that. And if you see, you know, all the witchcraft wives or whatever, you know, yeah. So that's what I meant by like he's like watering down his principle in a way that like people can relate to and observe. You know, yeah. Or you know, or the first examples of if you're ashamed, then you're not going to learn. You know, or if you're impatient, you're not going to succeed in teaching. Like, and I think it's easier for you to see, you can't see someone not learning as much, but when you see a teacher who is very, very impatient, then you see that like the students don't learn, you know? And so I think the move he's making is interesting because we've had the question, if you have one mishnah, do you learn all the ideas in that one mishnah as connected? He's saying there are 3 mishnayos and it's all part of one idea, you know, that he's learning together.
I think it's funny how people say women talk
Women aren't allowed to talk. So.
Is this a new?
Sorry about that.
Is this a new thing? What is this from? The women aren't allowed to talk.
I mean, women don't have
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
Yeah, where's the rock? It's so waiting.
What do you call it? I just saw a thread on Facebook where people were asking for like commentaries that they could learn on Tanakh by women, and like the only what was that? Nechama Leibowitz is the one of the more famous ones, but yeah, I'm sure there are now, but yeah, you're right. Back then there were not. Yeah, and he goes on. Yeah, until here. Oh, and that's why he says also, this is the point I was making. Amr b'lashon arami shu lashon hamurgo b'fiha hamon. No, that's opposite of the point I was making. Yeah, fine. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. So, Leah, do you see in the full version?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He actually explains. I think that the person who was summarizing it,
Yeah.
not to discredit him or anything, but I think it would be valuable to like summarize the idea and not just.
Yeah. No, you're right. It's a summary, and I honestly don't know if he's the one. It's possible he's the one who summarized it. I'm not sure. Yeah. Okay. And you also see why I didn't want to do the full version with you guys. It's like too long. Yeah. Oh, yes. Okay. So the question. So how do you answer Emily's question about the whole Mishnah is not being done l'kaf zechus? Well,
It's just like there's a difference between reality and done concept.
yeah.
Also, it's not reality.
Is not reality.
Someone that was drowned does not mean necessarily that they were drowned. Like maybe he was playing with his
I thought you meant
friends. And,
something
like,
else.
maybe he was like playing with his friends, and it God forbid happened that he was like you know, well maybe my sisters and I are just dumb, but we used to like pretend like we were surfing and like one was standing on the other. Like obviously we come up on the new air, but we wanted like wouldn't be smart, and then an animal came along and ate him and like left his boat. Like
Yeah.
Or maybe it happened so long ago that his whole body decayed besides his skull. or
Right.
something.
So I think we can answer it based on what we learned about when you should be down Lakavsklus and why.
And I also think there's different.
Yeah.
I was gonna say that, like just like we said here, that was the problem with why Rabbi Yehuda and Hillel?
Hello. Yeah.
Why Hillel didn't say this publicly. He only said it to himself because it's not necessarily the case that this man was drowned or whatever. He's just saying like, oh, this is showing it's a principle. Could have been he drowned others, whatever. But he didn't say that publicly
should.
because of that reason. Like it's not
Yeah,
certain.
and you see,
It's just an idea. I don't think it doesn't have any implication. It was just him using what he saw
Yeah.
It's
to
hyperbole.
reiterate an idea.
Yeah.
It didn't
Like he's
have
not
any
saying this
significance.
person must have drowned someone. He's just saying like, see people who drown get drowned.
yeah. I think that's a good. That's my okay. There's several answers here. So the one I was gonna say was like that, which is that he's using it as an example of just whenever he saw something like this, he would use that for himself to reinforce the idea that all actions have consequences. Bad actions have bad consequences and good actions have good consequences. If you ask him, oh, Hillel, do you really know that this guy drowned others? He'd be like, no, of course not. Of course I don't know. So I don't think he's actually even being Don Lakavkova here. He's just using this as an example because, especially because it looks bad. Like, again, it's like a decapitated head, like he's using it as an example to reinforce a worldview where mita connected mita happens, and I think if you use this other thing, well, like maybe the person just like didn't like, there's some freak accident that doesn't really reinforce this worldview, so that's like one answer. The other answer, what did you say, Elisheva? That
It doesn't have any implications. Like,
Yeah.
If I judge someone in like day to day, that will have an impact.
right.
But if they're dead, it doesn't have any implications.
Right. So the way that we were talking about Don Lakavsklus when we learned that Mishnah is like if you see a tzaddik do something that that they have a reputation of being a tzaddik, and like you like judge them unfavorably, so then that can actually affect your values and the values of the people around you, and like dilute the tzaddik's like ability to influence people for the good. Whereas this is something he's saying to himself in his head. It's not going to have that effect. We're not reading about a particular case, right? This is just like
You're
a,
saying the purpose of Don Tosafos is only good if it affects other people?
I mean, that's what Elisheva was saying. And I agree that,
Only significant.
no,
I'm not definitely good. I think it's probably better to assume good, but in
No,
this case, the idea overrides that
Yeah.
theoretical thinking good about a random person.
exactly. Right. Yeah. I mean, in other words, the way we learned it before was that the purpose of telling everyone to be Don Lakavsklus is to create a certain type of society where we relate to each other in a certain way, and we are, we grant the benefit of the doubt when we don't have all the facts, that promotes a certain thing. Seeing a random person, and then, who's dead now and like making that assumption is not necessarily going to like, that's not in the same realm. Like that's just the thing that they're saying in their head.
Okay,
You know-
but you're not applying, are you applying that every Don Tosafos situation?
You mean every dead person you see? Is that what you're saying?
No.
Like, what do you-
I was saying in any situation where you could be or could not be Don Tosafos, but you weigh whether or not this circumstance is significant.
Let me give you a timely example. Okay, here's a timely example.
Okay.
Let's say that you hear that someone died of coronavirus, right? So you have two options. Okay, and let's say you don't know any of the facts, right? You have two options. One is you use this as an example of this is why we need to be careful and like wear masks and like take precautions and all this other stuff. Okay, that's one approach. And you're not saying that this person wasn't careful. Maybe someone else wasn't careful, but you're saying like the more the less careful we are, then the more deaths like this are going to happen. The other thing is Don Lakavsklus. Maybe this person and everyone around them did everything well, and like we don't know why they got coronavirus. So which mentality is going to like be better to reinforce like proper observance of like guidelines? So I think that's the way he's taking it. He's not passing judgment on the individuals. It's that you see this crazy like case of an unusual death. So he can think of it either as it's like the this is water speech. You can choose how to frame things, right? You can either think of this as something that is going to reinforce a framework of divine justice and like mita connected mita and your actions affect society, or he could be Don Lakavsklus and like not get any of those benefits of thinking it that way. So I think he's erring on that side.
Okay.
Yeah. It's like also like I do this all the time with mishlei. Like I'll see, like a person, like Well, let's say, I mean, I don't even know if this is a real example. Like, let's say like I see someone, yeah, here's the thing. Let's say I'll see someone like cut someone else off, right? Okay. And then they'll almost get into an accident. And I'll be like, if you try to like sidestep the system, then the system's going to bite back, and in my mind, that'll be it. Now, maybe the guy had his pregnant wife in the car and was like trying to get to the hospital. Yeah, exactly. Right. Right. But like, but in terms of me and the way I'm thinking about the world, it's going to be better for my own development to like use these things as Mishlaic examples. And if I find out that the facts are different, so then fine, but at least I got a lesson out of it, yeah.
And I think it's also different when you're talking about a specific person. Like if you know that guy and you're like, oh, like see that guy did this, or as opposed to then like I feel like if it's a specific person,
Yeah.
then you could take the lesson, but don't apply the lesson to him. Don't be like, oh, like don't make it personal to him. Like he is the one who's that.
Right. It's and keeping that like that openness. Like you're using them as like models to think about certain ideas. You're not like actually thinking about the exact specific person and his life details. Like there's an example in Mishlei also where Shlomo says, I passed by the house or by like the vineyard, I forgot if it's vineyard or house, whatever, field of someone who was and saw it was all overgrown with like thorns and nettles and it was not being kept and the wall had broken down, and like he uses this as a rebuke for laziness, right? Now maybe the guy had a disease where like he can't get out of bed and like that's why, but he's still using it to like get Musar from, Yeah.
I hear what Emily's saying, like that it could, if you're the wrong person, like even passing that judgment, even if it's not on that person, it could lead to harm, but in this case, like it clearly doesn't. If the person's dead and you don't know them, I don't think it's impossible.
Also the motive of why you're looking at it this way is so that you can learn good mitos and to avoid bad mitos. Like,
But it definitely could get tricky. Like if you see someone do something and it reinforces an idea for you. Oh, like with a mask. Someone not wearing a mask and it reinforces the idea, oh, you should wear a mask.
Right.
No, but also
you're subconsciously gonna pass some judgment on them.
Right.
And it could potentially have an impact on you. Maybe later with your friends, you're talking about that person in your head. You have like
right. And I guess this is because we're in the realm of lifni mishar sedin and derech hayachid. Like there are going to be these like cost benefit analyses you have to conduct. If it's halacha, then you don't have to worry about this at all because then halacha either tells you do this or do that. But when you're in this realm of like how should we think about things and like how should we like craft our own ethical development based on what we see, like then it could carry these risks.
Example you gave before about the guy that died, like if you were in front of his family, like that would not be inappropriate.
Right.
If it was just
it might teach you to start thinking and talking about people in that way. Like it's going to teach you to be like to be passing judgment, to try and learn a lesson, but then instead of passing judgment on something.
So I think that is in the long run that's going to be better for you. Again, I'm not saying the judgment. Yeah, I think trying to learn from when you see bad things happen to people and you try to learn lessons from that in order to make yourself into a better person, even though it involves passing judgment. Again, when I say passing judgment, I don't mean saying this person is inferior or superior. I mean trying to learn practical lessons about how to live your life. I think in the long run, that's going to make you into a better person.
I think it's inevitable that you start to think, even if you're learning a lesson, you start to think
that, you're going to judge them either way. I think it's better to frame it in a good idea.
Yeah, right. And you're also discounting one thing that happens, and this does happen, is the more you do this with other people, you'll start to see this in yourself also, which will also make you more forgiving about other people in terms of not saying, oh, they should have known better, but still able to learn practical lessons from them, Yeah. Interesting discussion, though. All righty, let's stop here.
Like you can learn something for everyone.
Yeah.